Picture it, Los Angeles, 2025. If you're listening to this when we drop it, because it's going to be 2026, like tomorrow. I am HAlanScott, and welcome to Out on the Lanai, the only Golden Girls podcast you're ever going to need to listen to. Now, Kerri Doherty is still off on her maternity moment, having that baby moment. We wish her all. She's doing great. Just everyone knows she's doing wonderful. The baby is adorable. We're still deciding on the nickname we're going to give little baby on this podcast, who's going to join little Oreo in the nickname love that we have for her two kids. But we haven't decided on that yet. So just sit tight. But today's episode is so much fun. I'm not going to be flying solo, even though I'm solo right now, because I am joined by a very, very special guest, Isabel Omero. Now, if you don't know Isabel, you need to know Isabel, because Isabel spent more time with the girls than literally anybody during the run of the Golden Girls. That's right. Isabel was a script supervisor, production associate on the Golden Girls, frequently did many of Susan Harris's shows over the years. I mean, she previously did Soap, a ton of shows over the years. It's a Living, Benson, and then later on she did Blossom and The Mommies. Do you remember The Mommies? I loved The Mommies. It was like an early 90s show, and it was these two, I think they were stand-ups, and they had an act and whatever. It was a TV show. It was fantastic. I was obsessed with it. The Five Mrs. Buchanans, News Radio, and then most recently she did Young and Hungry, I think it was called. And just, she's incredible. She's incredible. But of course, we talked about her time working with Susan Harris and, of course, spending all this time with the girls. I mean, the stories that Isabel has is just incredible. It was literally, I mean, we've had a lot of people from, who worked on the Golden Girls, who are on the Golden Girls on the podcast over the years. But I don't think we've ever spoken with someone like Isabel, who is just so knowledgeable on sort of the personalities of the four women, B. Arthur, Rue McClanahan, Betty White, and Estelle Getty. I mean, she just literally she basically played every part in every script during every sort of private read through with the girls. And it was so enjoyable chatting with Isabel. So what we're doing is we're going to have a large portion of the chat be today's episode of the podcast, which I think is a perfect way to end 2025. I mean, this is going to make you want to go back and watch some of these episodes that Isabel worked on. She worked on every episode, but her episode specifically. And it's going to make you want to go watch some of your favorite episodes of the Golden Girls, because she has so many amazing stories about the girls. So we're going to play a portion of my chat with Isabel for the podcast today. And then the full chat will be over on our Patreon. Go to the Golden Girls VIP Club. You know how to get to the Patreon. It's in the show notes, and you can listen to the full chat there. But however you listen to it, either on this or over on the Patreon or watch it on YouTube or whatever you do, we thank you so much for listening this year, for watching this year. It was an incredible year. We had a new addition to the family this year, came very quickly, and so many great things happened. So I just want to say, from Kerri and I both, thank you so much for listening, for watching, for supporting, for being a part of the journey, and for being a part of our own little Golden Girls VIP Club. I always say it that Kerri and I are just sort of the conduits of a conversation about the Golden Girls, but we're all sort of just Golden Girls fans here, and we're all having fun chatting about something that we love very much. So I'm very grateful for all of you for listening, and I'm going to shut up now so I can get to the conversation, this fantastic conversation I had with Isabel Omero. So we'll be right back. Isabel, so nice to meet you. I love this. I love this so much. How are you?
Thank you for having me. Well, thank you for having me. I'm very well.
Yeah.
Comfortably retired for the last, oh my gosh, 7 years, 8 years. My God.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for, the modest little life that I have, and feeling.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. Well, when Kerri and Kerri does wish she could be here, but obviously there was a baby situation that got in the way.
Yeah.
It happens, babies happen. So she does wish she could be here, but I'm so glad that we're able to do this. And I wanted to first start things off because I love in our email exchange. I mean, obviously we want to talk about your episodes, but in our email exchange, you emailed back being very eager to talk about some certain things, and I love that because I love when someone wants to really go deep into a lot of the things in the Golden Girls universe. And the first thing I think that everyone is talking about is that 2020 special of on the
Yeah.
40th anniversary. So I want to get your thoughts first on that.
Okay. Here is my take, and I have vetted this take with a few Golden Girls family people,
Mm-hmm.
and this is what I believe. This is no inside information, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was a 2-hour special.
Oh, interesting.
I believe that it was probably it because it felt cut down.
Yeah.
There was on, Good Morning America, I was told, there was a segment, with, Jim Colucci
Mm-hmm.
and Mark Cherry, um, and it was I don't even know what the subject was, but it was like a 7-minute piece that had been edited, and it was the same visual style as the special,
Oh,
which
wow.
led my one friend to say, "Oh, that must have been lifted out."
Mm.
Hey, in the preparation for this special, there were, uh, I mean, I was nice, I felt they were nice enough to give me a call and to do kind of a pre-interview with me.
Mhm.
But once I had heard and at that time, I had heard it was a 2-hour special.
Yeah.
But when I heard that it was going to be a 1 hour, I immediately thought, uh, it just doing the arithmetic,
Mm.
the Tony, Susan, Kathy, Terry, Mort,
Yeah.
Barry, Winnie,
Mhm.
uh, Marcia, once you start, and that's not even counting the fans,
Yeah.
that's not even counting the the ways that the show had a social impact. It really didn't go into much detail of what issues we covered.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and there, I mean, plus I could have watched 45 minutes of Susan Harris
Yeah.
from the jump.
Well,
I
let's
mean,
talk about that because one of the things that I love about your background is you were a writer's assistant, correct? On Soap and other Witt Thomas shows. And so you worked very closely with Susan.
as closely as one could, and
Yes.
I say that, not out of distance, but they had a lot going on.
Yeah.
Um, if you did the arithmetic of my career, um, I worked on, let's see, uh, I filled in on Benson, which was a Susan creation. I filled in on, and did some voiceover work on, Empty Nest.
Mm.
I did the pilot of Nurses,
Oh, love
and I
nurses.
may have filled in once there. Um, but I did a lot with Susan, just in terms of the arithmetic.
Mm.
Um, and as I was hired originally for Benson, but
Okay.
the woman who did the interview was wonderfully uh, um, so chatty about how what a good hire I was going to be that a woman named Marsha Posner,
Love Marcia.
uh, rang me up and said, "I've been hearing a lot about you, so can you come in and interview with me?" And so not only that, but she hired me instead for Soap. So I didn't got to never got to work on Benson full time.
Mm.
And so Marsha kind of was the beginning of everything with my I had been in the music end of television
Oh,
uh, for 5 years prior. So Soap was my first sitcom ever.
well, that's a great first sitcom.
Yeah, and being Susan's writer's assistant was not, I mean, I could handle stuff, but the the wrinkle was, um, Marsh Susan's previous writer's assistant was Marcia Posner, and
Big
Mar
shoes to follow.
Marcia, among her many, many fine qualities, what gets buried is, and she's very proud of this, Marcia typed 120 words a minute.
Oh, wow.
So that meant if Susan could think something,
Yeah.
it was instantly there in format.
For the kids listening, 120 words a minute is a lot. Is a lot.
A lot.
Yes.
And so I think I tested out once at like 27. And so after the first week, the word came down that I don't think this is going to work out. And I said, "Oh, please, oh, please, oh, please let me do this." Because soap was, it had already been on the air for 2 years when I came along. And I said, "I will find a way to bring whatever strength I can to this job, and just give me a little time." And
And they did, right?
and so they did.
Yeah.
Um, and it turned out that I was the grandmaster of cut and paste. So back then, at
Pre-computer days.
Jurassic Park Senior High, um, my what I would do would be if there were changes in the script that
Mhm.
had to be down, I would cut out pieces literally paste them into the dialogue that was already there. I, I was a genius at it.
Yeah.
So that got me by for the next year on soap. Um, but the real treat outside of my survival was was watching Susan from afar.
Mhm.
But soap was not only a groundbreaking show, not only a controversial show,
Mhm.
but um, people. I don't think enough credit is given to the fact that Susan was operating with often 20 characters
Yeah.
at any given time.
Yeah.
It was done in a serialized format, which for a sitcom was unheard of.
At that
You
time, yeah.
you wanted to If you wanted to watch an episode, it would really, I mean, you needed to watch like
Oh,
what really
yeah.
going on the way we
Yeah.
do now. And so you had a huge cast, you had an episodic format, so everything had to sync up. There had to be continuity across the board,
Yeah.
but also guest stars on the show like that. There were so many of them
Mhm.
that um, that the shows were not shot in necessarily in order.
Mm. Mhm.
You would have, I remember vividly. I have a photo of it somewhere of Marcia sitting at her desk, and on her wall was this bulletin board that she created,
Yeah.
and it was all of the beats every episode that were upcoming. So if they wanted to hire a certain 2 or 3 guest stars for a particular plot line, what they would often do is that they would shoot all the episodes, all the scenes with those 2 guest stars at the same time, and then
Mm.
go back and plug them in. So I don't think Susan gets enough credit.
I
I mean,
agree.
they
I
because not only don't mean to
No,
interrupt,
please, please.
but not only did she have all those factors, but for the first 2 seasons before I got there, she wrote everything pretty much. And then when I came along, it so happened that she found a writer she could really entrust with
Mhm.
her creation. And so very funny writer named Stu Silver came,
Mm-hmm.
and the two of them carried the load until the show ended in 2 seasons later. Uh,
Well, one of the things you touch on a point that I think often is not talked about in the Golden Girls universe, and I love that. I agree that Susan is not. Susan is a sort of, she doesn't get the credit, I think, that. So a lot of times, you think of creators in the 1970s, and everyone points to Norman Lear, rightfully so. Norman Lear was a genius and did some great work, but I would argue that if you look at the catalog of Susan's work from the mid 70s to the mid 80s, the voices of marginalized people that Susan was putting on television in prominent roles
mhm.
mirrors everything that Norman Lear was doing, and I would argue perhaps even more. And I don't think she gets the same treatment that Norman Lear rightfully gets for the work that he did. You know what I mean?
Right. I think of a show like The Jeffersons,
Yeah.
and Jeffersons classic and big personalities. Sherman Hemsley was fantastic in that show,
Genius. Yeah.
but there was a character of Benson on soap for 3 years. And we watched the character of Benson grow over the course of a decade
Mhm.
from the help
Yeah.
all the way to the lieutenant governor's position on Benson. That's an extraordinary character arc. And
Mhm.
again, Susan Harris delivered something that in the Norman Lear world was Norman shows, I think, were generally thought, if there was a new Norman Lear show announced,
Mhm.
all the way from All in the Family to Clean Slate.
Yeah.
Um, it arrived with the label on it that, okay, this is Norman Lear, this is going to be edgy, this is going to be controversial.
Mhm.
It the reboot of One Day at a Time,
Yes,
another show that doesn't get enough credit.
I agree.
Uh, but you that was Norman's brand, was controversy. Susan would do a funny middle of the road. I don't want to damn it with.
Yeah, it was relatable.
It was relatable. It was not this edgy, controversial thing.
Yeah.
She would lay in those themes for years afterwards in her creations.
Mhm.
It was really, really amazing. And I think that the fact that she was doing it all in the writing for 2 years
Mhm.
and 50% later in the latter 2 years, with all those other conditions, the size of the cast,
Yeah.
the out of order, the keeping it all together. And let me tell you my favorite Susan moment.
Please. Oh, I would love
This is
that.
this is what my day with Susan Harris was like. Outside of the odd necessary revision, there wouldn't be very many revised pages on, during the day. They would rehearse the scenes with Jay Sandridge was the director at that time, and then uh, J.D. LeBeau came along
This was on soap.
on soap,
Yeah.
and Susan would be at the run through at the end of the day with Paul and Tony, um, and then they would get notes from Jay. They'd come upstairs, and then Paul, Tony, and Susan would put their heads together, and then they'd come up with a plan. And you would think this is where we go into the writer's room and the rewrites begin. Not on so, not even close. Uh, I would hear from Susan's assistant that she had somewhere to be at 8 o'clock, um, whatever. And 7:30 comes. Here comes Susan into. She came to me and would set a yellow legal pad down in front of me with handwritten changes, and she'd be off to do whatever she needed to do in her life. And then I would look at this yellow legal pad and it looked fine.
Yeah.
But there were no eraser marks.
Well,
And I have never seen anything like that before or since.
you didn't correct yourself. It was just out.
Entire scenes with no eraser marks. And I just blew my mind.
Wow.
And
Really
the fact,
speaks to how smart she is, how the genius that she was.
yeah,
Is.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's soap. And another thing that was buried in soap that I don't know if a lot of people remember if they happen to watch both shows, but the characters of Catherine Hellman, Catherine Damon, Jennifer Salt, and Diana Canova, the two mothers and the two daughters, would occasionally gather in the kitchen over crumb cake.
Mm-hmm.
And the four of them would talk. The episode that I remember was Jessica discovering the meaning of the word horny.
Yes.
And but that was kind of a proto
Yeah.
Golden Girls structure.
Yeah.
So I don't want to spend everything talking about soap.
No, but it's true. I think that actually I would, and I often, well, two things. I often tell Golden Girls fans that come up and talk to me. I'm like, go watch some of Susan's early work because you will see the genesis for a lot of where the Golden Girls ultimately came to. Because the Golden Girls, I think, allowed, even though Susan didn't write every episode of Golden Girls, you still felt her influence on the Golden Girls in every single episode. And you see those moments play out on the Golden Girls from little moments earlier in her career. It's in really beautiful, fun ways that apply to these four women, these four characters. And I find, as a TV junkie, as someone who loves television history, it is really fun to have a watch of soap and then notice those things that because I know the Golden Girls episodes so well, notice those things. And it's just a really fun watch.
There was a character on soap, Judge Petrillo.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Played by, I think, Charles Lane. And
wow,
how do I remember that?
I mean, I love that you do.
So that when Golden Girls came along, and I was so grateful for the opportunity. Again, Marsha Posner Williams. I was doing. It may interest you to know that I was golden before Golden Girls.
Oh.
When Marsha Posner called and to ask me to lunch one day, I was working on Solid Gold.
That's good.
And I was locked in a trailer on the Paramount lot when feverishly breaking down disco songs or whatever. And
what a life. What a life.
And Marsha called and got me out of there for an hour. And but she was unlike herself. She was very tight-lipped that day.
Mm-hmm.
And she brought me in and she didn't talk much. She just said, "Sit down," and plunked me in a chair. There was a TV in front of me. There was a VHS machine or a 3/4 machine. And she slammed the tape in and says, "I'll be back," and leaves. Close the door.
Yeah.
And exactly 23 minutes later, like to the second, she pops her head in, the credits are rolling on the screen, and she says, "So, you with us?" Because she knew once you watched that pilot, what were you going to say? No.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was one of the most incredible things I'd ever seen.
Wow.
And
So I want to talk a little bit more about that. I want to speak to, first off, mentioning some of the like the relatable, controversial things that Susan did. We had just had recently. We're doing these episodes where we because there are so many people who come up to us say they've never seen the Golden Girls, like friends of ours, and so we have them on to basically introduce them to the Golden Girls, basically to get more fans. And I had a friend on recently, and she had never seen the Golden Girls before, and she asked about if it was like controversial at the time, some of these things, some of these storylines, or was it
nobody saw it coming.
And exactly. No one saw it coming, but also because of the brilliance of Susan, in a weird way, the complicated conversations around queerness, around aging, around sex, around racism, around, there's so many different levels. Those complicated conversations were delivered in a package that was so relatable, that was so real. It almost wasn't controversial because
That's right.
you could receive it in a way that allowed you to hear something that is big, but also not threatening. You know?
There were no protest signs
Yeah.
on girls. They did not walk into the kitchen carrying a sign.
Yeah, except for the Dolphins one when Blanche hit the except for the
So, and I think it was almost a little insidious
Yeah,
the way it all snuck in,
yeah.
because we didn't we'd never seen really a show about women of a certain age.
No.
Um, and suddenly grandma was talking naughty.
Yeah,
And suddenly, you have the character with who'd had the stroke,
yeah.
um, and had no filter, so she could say anything.
Mhm.
I mean, it was very sneaky.
Okay, I'm gonna take a little bit of a break, and when we come back, we're gonna have Isabel talking a little bit about the start of Golden Girls and how all that came about and the things Isabel has to say. Oh my god, your brain's gonna explode. We'll be right back. Well, let's talk. This is a great moment to get into sort of the start of the Golden Girls for you. So, I would like. Well, you told us a little bit about joining and how that process worked, but what was it like to be a member of the stage crew first off, and to have some of your script ideas become sort of the writing assignments or the things that would happen on the show? How did that feel for you as sort of a young person in television with these masters who were doing such great work?
I was fortunate to have been at the company for a few years, and, I had worked with, Spear and Grossman, a little, so I knew them and, was comfortable. I had, worked, before Golden Girls on another Susan Harris creation, I'm a Big Girl Now.
Mm.
Now, I don't know if you ever saw that show.
I saw things on YouTube, but I haven't seen the full thing. No.
Martin Short,
Yes.
Sherry North,
Mm.
Thomas, our star was Diana Canova from Soap. Uh, I had worked with Susan on that. So I had worked with Mark Sotkin back then.
Love Mark.
So I was in a way, uh, a certain amount of loyalty because I had been a part of so many things.
Yeah.
Uh, as we approached the 4th and 5th seasons of Golden Girls,
Hmm.
um, Kathy Cherry Morton Berry had read a script of mine, um, that I had written. It was a spec script, and it was very limited in a number of ways. But I will say that that the story was very good that I pitched, and the story was. I don't know if you're interested in this.
I do. I'm interested in everything you have to
The
say,
story
Isabel.
that I pitched was Rose's car was stolen
Okay.
with Sophia's purse in the back seat.
Oh, wow.
So it was a show about loss, uh, uh, almost like The Break-In. Remember the
Mm.
episode
Yes. Oh,
Break-In?
yes. Yes.
You had Rose feeling angry and wanting to go out into the world and find her car. That
Mm.
was that story. Meanwhile, Sophia was mourning the loss of this thing that had been in her life almost her entire life. We learned a little bit about not only we learned a little bit about how she got it, but we learned a lot about what was in it.
Oh, wow. That would have been big.
Yeah, that got me read a little bit, but but the overwhelming flaw in that spec script was B was barely in it. I had no idea how to write for B over there.
Yeah,
And
you need B. You definitely need B.
you definitely should have all 4 of them, go, and I think B had, like, 3 lines, so it was embarrassing, but but Kathy Terry Mortonberry liked the story.
Yeah.
Um, by the time, the group had changed, the writers' staff had changed, Mark knew me from I'm a Big Girl Now,
Yeah.
and I had actually, pitched a script to him back in, I'm a Big Girl Nowadays.
Mhm.
Um, so he was at least open to the idea of me, I said, "Hey, can I come in and just pitch some story ideas?"
Yeah.
And he said, "No, no, no, that's not what that's not how it's done.
Yeah.
It's the whole package."
Yeah.
And so I said, "Oh, fine by me." And, uh, one of the things that I want to talk about, I had mentioned to you, is some unsung heroes.
Yes.
And one of the big unsung heroes, I think, of Golden Girls, was Herb Edelman.
Oh,
I don't,
yeah.
um, I
I love Herb Edelman so every time I see him on Murder, She Wrote or anything, I just love him as an actor.
and we we were blessed because, number one, he was such a sweetheart. He was a total pro, and he was really tall.
Oh,
And the way I saw B respond to when she would hear that Herb was coming next week,
yeah.
uh, all those qualities, she just lit up. She couldn't get enough of Herb Edelman.
I'm so glad you said that because one of the things, I mean, on the podcast, a playful thing is that I just love Dorothy and Stan together. And I actually think they're the romance of the show. And I think
Yes.
I just love, even though there's complicated things there, I come from a divorced family. I know they're almost the parents that had to be divorced that I wanted. My parents couldn't talk to each other. And so seeing Dorothy and Stan, it's just really lovely. But particularly what I love, because, I consume all the interviews and I watch all the things. And I love the way B. Arthur as a person would talk about Herb Edelman and would
Yeah.
talk. I mean, she had such, I wouldn't say reverence, but appreciation for her. And
Mhm.
that I thought, I always respected and thought, she's B. Arthur. She doesn't need to praise anybody. And here she is praising this man who, all intents and purposes, could be a throwaway character on the show, and he wasn't.
There were moments we'd be sitting around the table after we had done our own run through. This is Terry Hughes, and the actors before, and where we would be waiting for Paul, Tony, Susan, Kathy, Terry, Morton Bear to come down for either our run through or the network run through. And there would be moments during that time when just our group would be gathered, and Terry would look at me or Lex Passeris or B and say, what we could use in this episode? We could use a little Herb Edelman. And he would pitch it to the writers, and they would go, that gets us where we're going. That connects A to B, in a simple way. We don't have to introduce a new character. We can do it with Stan.
Mm. Mm.
Uh, I think Herb was our secret weapon.
Yeah,
And,
he's the fifth Golden Girl for me. I mean,
you know,
I know the girls, credited Terry as like the fifth gold, but I think Stan is the fifth Golden Girl.
absolutely. We got, there's a number of people for 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah,
Know,
yeah,
uh, Susan, of course,
yes,
Terry, Herb. Um, so Herb was definitely an unsung hero on the show.
yeah, for sure. Well, so tell me a little bit about the episodes you're so proud of that you had a
Oh,
particular involvement in.
which brings us to the first one. Lex Passer's my dear friend for all these years. He and I were talking one day, and he had mentioned, what if something good happened to her?
Mm,
What if to Stan? And and he said, what if he like actually did something right? And I thought about that, and I said, I'm going to come up with a story about that. And so I went off and I thought, if at last you do succeed.
Yeah.
And that was the first episode that I pitched to Mark Sotkin
Oh, wow.
by that title. And it's in the room, the moment you say that out loud. And then um, I wrote a draft, and then it was completely rewritten.
Oh.
Completely. I barely recognized it, except all of my story beats. That was the
Mhm.
best, for me. That was that was why I was so lit up.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, but I was really nervous,
Mhm.
and so I switched jobs for that week because I didn't want the ladies to be uncomfortable.
Mhm.
I didn't want them to have to say, this sure sucks,
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, by that point, everybody, wanted me to succeed. But so I went off and did Blossom,
Wow. Okay.
which, so, you take a week and the Blossom scripty came over and we swapped places. And I did that actually on two of them. Um, but what it did by season five, all the they felt that they had pretty much done everything they could do with Stan until that episode,
Yeah.
and it energized the character again.
Yeah.
And so that was how I like to think that that was, in part my contribution to the
Mhm.
legacy was to make Stan vital again.
Yeah.
The second episode was actually a I wrote it. I pitched the story. Um, let's see. It was it was meant to be a Dorothy A story,
Okay.
and the idea was Dorothy burns out
Okay.
and she's tired of teaching, substitute teaching especially. It's so wearing. Nobody listens.
Mhm.
Um, because we never thought of, I don't recall any mention before that of her being anything than a substitute teacher.
Yeah.
I So the idea of her going to a place, becoming a corporate trainer
Yeah.
where everybody listens and the students are so enthusiastic,
Mhm.
uh, th- that was just delicious. And I was really excited that B was going to play this. However, the B story, which was the B story, not the B
Yeah.
Arthur,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, the B story was boudoir photos.
Oh.
Again, it's another one of those things you said
Yes.
was Rose does boudoir photos, and you instantly know where it's going.
Yeah.
And what was meant to be a BA story became a Rose.
How many you try? How many?
Um,
Oh, you froze
uh,
there for a second. Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
that episode, I turned in my draft, and it was completely rewritten
Oh,
again.
wow.
Um, uh, again, story beats were all there.
Yeah.
Uh, good at story, not feeling bad, but that's how it goes.
That's show business.
I gave myself a B on my writing, and when you have an A plus staff,
Uh-huh.
you you that's how it works.
Well, I want
But
to
then, but
I
then,
want to I want to add to that because I feel like people listening, a lot of people listening are creatives who they get in that situation. And I think you just said something that actually is really helpful for a lot of creatives because I had it myself. When I started in stand up, I always knew I wasn't the best stand up. I knew jokes. I knew funny, but I wasn't the best at delivering. I would never be a stadium comic tour. I'd be a personality. And you had the same thing where you had great ideas, but sometimes the writing needed tweaking. And I love that you just said that because I think everyone in entertainment or creative spaces, it's important to recognize the things you're great at, but the things you also maybe need the community to help you out with too.
yeah, it takes a village.
It does.
But also, you know, one of the funniest living organisms on this planet is a man named Jim Valley.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you've interviewed Jim, if you or met him, but
I've met him.
he is relentlessly, muscularly funny.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of that, particularly in the difference between the Kathy Cherry Morton Berry years and the group that followed. There was more emphasis on funny in the later years.
Yes.
And honestly, I had to be honest with myself. At some point, I was not going to be that funny. However, what I was good at was story. And then in the third and final episode that I did, I discovered what worked for me as a writer, and what what I was good at. And again, I pitched the story that got me in the door.
Yeah.
I was a huge fan of two writing teams, Richard Vaxie and Tracy Gamble,
Yeah.
who were story machines. I think their names are on more episodes of Golden Girls than any other entity.
Yeah.
The other team that I had a lot of time with and was Wooten and Cherry.
Mm-hmm.
Mark and Jamie. What set them apart from all the other writers was that they came to the show as fans.
Yeah.
And I watched how they thought, what little threads are exposed and what can we pull from?
Mm.
So so they went down a lot of avenues using kind of existing thoughts. And I thought, well, I'll look at I'll look at the show that way. And what can I come up with?
Yeah.
And that was when I pulled on the thread that was Mel Bushman. And melodrama was just a precious jewel for me.
Mm-hmm.
Again, so rewritten.
Yeah.
So rewritten. But again, I'm not quite at that level,
Yeah. Yeah.
And but there was a scene that survived intact. Oh, it was the scene where Mel and Blanche sit outside the front door on
very sweet scene.
On a very uncomfortable seat.
Sure.
There were two people on this little bench outside the front door. It wasn't a place that we shot much because there wasn't much that was visually interesting.
Yeah.
So it was very focused on the two characters. And Bushman awaits. Every so while, I've seen it on a T-shirt once.
Yeah. Yeah. We just recently watched that episode.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And
we've watched it many times, but yes, we've recently watched it again.
that was one of the happiest moments of my life.
What an episode too, Isabel. What an episode.
Friends with benefits.
Yeah.
At 60 years old.
Which, and you know what, in that episode, it was so funny because I'm a story person and you're clearly a story person. And one of the things that struck me about that episode is, and I talked about it when we recently rewatched it, that, I watched that when I was young. We've been doing this podcast for 10 years. So clearly we watched that first episode when I was much younger and thinner and single and life was different. And now I'm a different thing than that. And you watch an episode like that in a way that as you age, that then shows you that there's a spectrum to what love and sex and intimacy and relationships can be as you age in different ways at different parts of your life. And it's just, and to have your brain come up with the idea of, okay, well, maybe they can be friends with benefits at that age of 60 something and just be okay with it. Why do they have to move in? Why do they have to, all of the things,
Relationships and food I can't see. And
yeah. It's
Yeah.
situationships almost. It really,
Yeah. I love
yes.
that. I love
Yeah,
that.
so that's such a perfect story, and I love that you were a part of that. I also want to know too, like what it was like, because I mean you mentioned this too, and what it was like to run dialogue with the women,
Oh,
and like how they're different. Because that's something that I think a lot of people are very envious of you that you got to
yeah.
do that.
I Of course, the big thing I get to tell people was that every Friday at noon, that was when the day started because Friday was our shoot day. And, my first order of business would be to bring new scripts, to a multipurpose room.
Yeah.
And, the, and it would just be the five of us for sometimes 90 minutes, sometimes 2 hours. And we would just drill it and drill it and drill it. But during the week, when we knew something was going to work, and we knew it wasn't going to change, th- at various times along the 7 years that I was there, because I was there
Yeah.
in the same job for all 7 years,
Yeah.
I had time with each of them individually, in addition to those group things.
Mhm. Now, I'm cutting off Isabel here because we talked for a long time. We talked for like well over an hour. And you got a lot of the chat on the main feed of the podcast. But if you want the full chat, which Isabel now goes into what it was like working individually with the girls and some of the interesting things that the girls did when she was working with them. So if you want that, you know, go over to the Patreon. The link is in the show notes. You can listen to that over there. The full chat and video are going to be on the Patreon. And I just loved my chat with Isabel. So stick around. I will be right back with a golden takeaway. So don't go anywhere. And we are back with a golden takeaway, which of course is a nugget of truth or inspiration that you can apply to your life or the lives of our listeners. Kerri's not here to do her golden takeaway, but I think I can speak for both of us for our golden takeaway. It's the same that I said at the beginning of the episode. Our golden takeaway is a thank you to you for listening and watching this podcast this year. And we celebrated our 10-year anniversary this year, which is crazy. We had a Golden Girls anniversary this year, which is crazy. So many wonderful things happened this year. And I am just so grateful to continue being able to do this. I mean, you know, we do a lot of other things, Kerri and I, in our careers, and there's a lot of other things going on, and some of it you're privy to, some of it you're not privy to. But every single week, one of my biggest pleasures and the most relaxing thing I think I get to do professionally is this podcast. And so it's a real joy every single week to come back and chat about this thing that we all love so much, and to do it in a community that is so nice to each other and is so loving and is so accepting, and you're kind of growing with us in our careers but also over the course of this podcast. So we thank you so much. I don't know why I have to do it like that. I am such an annoying homosexual. And yes, you can of course support us. We are part of Moguls of Media, so go support Mom Plus. You can also follow us on social media at Golden Girls Pod on Twitter, Out on the Lanai Official on Instagram, Golden Girls Pod on Facebook, and I am HAlanScott / Sadie Pines on everything. You can follow Kerri at Squidsy on Instagram and Squid Eats Squid on Twitter. I've been begging her to change that since we started this podcast, and she still has not. Also, go leave a little rating and review wherever you're listening or watching this podcast. It really does help us out, and it would be a great end of the year treat to get some of that in the bank for us. So please go and do that. And in the meantime, as always, remember, stay golden and have a great and safe, wonderful new year.
Out on the Lanai is not endorsed by Witt Thomas Harris Productions, Touchstone Television, Disney, or any of its subsidiaries. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only.
All names, pictures, audio, and video clips of the Golden Girls are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of their respective trademark and/or copyright holders.